Congressman David Kustoff is one of two Jewish Republican lawmakers in the House now celebrating the news of this ceasefire.
And Congressman Kustoff has been championing the release of the hostages, arguing and pushing for the release of these hostages and for the end of this war, even going to Israel over the summer to meet with Israeli Prime Minister and Benjamin Netanyahu. And speaking before the Knesset, their parliament there, and Tennessee Congressman David Kustoff joins us now. So, Congressman, thank you for being with us. A big day. The chairman of the House Knesset Parliamentary Friendship Group, that's what you're leading there. What's your reaction, just in general, to this long-awaited moment?
Yeah, well, first of all, we're really happy. We want those hostages released as soon as they can. You know, from a historical perspective, and we remember a lot about history with the passing of Jimmy Carter a few weeks ago. You know, those hostages were released on the day of the inauguration when Ronald Reagan took the oath of office, and they were held for 444 days. As of today, the hostages that were taken by Hamas have been held for 466 days. So they've actually been held longer than the hostages in Iran, which is hard to believe. So there's a lot of credit to go around, and obviously the Israelis worked hard. The Biden administration deserves credit. President Trump, I think, deserves a lot of credit, and Stephen Witkoff and the emissaries that he sent to help negotiate. But I mentioned President Carter a moment ago because history judges now that one reason, maybe the main reason, that the hostages in Iran were released was because of the incoming presidency of Ronald Reagan. And I do think that the Hamas and the enemies of Israel recognize and remember the 4 years that the United States had under the leadership of President Trump. President Trump talked about during the campaign and afterwards that all hell would break loose, in his words, if the hostages were not released. And to your point, thankfully it's been announced that they have been, and hopefully that will take place Sunday, or maybe, again, to repeat history, Monday, the day of the inauguration of President Donald Trump.
So Prime Minister Netanyahu, with whom you met with not too long ago, has made it very clear that this war wasn't going to end until Hamas was destroyed. What does how do we take that now? Do we even know, with this truce in place? We need to hear from the Prime Minister about that call to action.
Right. Well, obviously, Israel has agreed in principle, and the deal was announced, and we're thankful of that. There is no doubt that Hamas has suffered tremendous damage, not only to their personnel, to their operation, to their leadership over this very long war that they started. You know, we're talking about a ceasefire today. There was a ceasefire until October the 7th, 2023, when Hamas violated it. So Hamas has been dismantled. The head of the snake has been cut off, and I think that's good. There's a lot more that has to be done, and we all know that Israel has enemies surrounding it on all of its borders. But come Monday, one dynamic that's very different is that Donald Trump is coming back to office, and President Trump during his prior 4 years was a tremendous ally for Israel and the U.S.-Israeli relationship, and I expect that will continue and that will prosper. But the main thing is that the remaining Americans, and I think the reporting is that we know of 3 Americans, the American hostages that are alive, and they will be in that first wave of hostages that'll be released.
And that is truly good news, Congressman. And you know, Hamas is still the titular nominal leadership and governing authority in Gaza. But that you're right, they've been decimated for sure because of the atrocity that they committed on the Israeli people on October the 7th. But I want to ask about the Palestinian people and about Gaza. It just looked like the bombs after a while were just making the rubble bounce, that the place is just absolutely leveled. And I wonder if you think there's a role for the United States or who, I mean, who's going to clean that up and who's going to establish some kind of decent life for the people who, you know, were governed by this tyrannical. I've been in Gaza. It was a gangster regime. It is a gangster regime. People are afraid to speak their minds on the streets because Hamas might watch them. So I've got no illusions about Hamas, but what do you think about the suffering there, and what is there a U.S. role in helping to move forward from it?
Yeah, I think that there's certainly a U.S. role that'll be played in that. I'm very excited because Donald Trump has named former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee to be our ambassador to Israel. And I know Governor Huckabee very well. I think he's a strong leader. I think he was a terrific governor of Arkansas. He is somebody that has been very passionate about Israel, has been to Israel more times than anybody can count. And so I expect him to be part of the dialogue there as it relates to this Palestinian issue on behalf of the United States. We all know that this problem, this issue, these issues go back generations and generations and generations. So it's not going to be solved or resolved within a short period of time. But the key is leadership. And again, I don't think anybody can discount that these hostages are going to be released, including the Americans, because of the transition of power here in the United States, starting with President Donald Trump. So we know that we'll focus on that. There'll be a new doctrine. There'll be a Trump doctrine that takes place in Israel that he is developing in conjunction with Governor Huckabee and with soon-to-be Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And to me, having that strong voice and that strong hand in this relationship will be a win across the board for the people of the Middle East.
Congressman David Kustoff, appreciate your time today.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.